Fading red panda. Back in October and November of 2021, I started a personal project where I painted a series of animals. This is the first image in that series, and it kind of sets the tone for the entire project. Funnily enough, the project still isn't entirely done a year later, and I'm actually coming back to it now. It's kind of funny to look back at the process, because some of what I loved the most about this image was some of the sketches. But don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that I don't like the finished image, because I really do. But I really liked the cute style I used for the sketches, and that didn't carry through to the finished painting. When I first created this project, I got a lot of input from my followers on Instagram and my Patreon supporters. Sometimes I wasn't entirely certain of which animal I wanted to paint, so I shared a bunch of sketches of different animals and people weighed in. Though other times I knew exactly what animal I wanted to paint, but I wasn't entirely certain what pose to go for. Of course, I always had the final say, but it was really fun to be able to share more of my process this way. Some of my focus for this image was to make sure that I captured the fluffy texture of the red panda's fur. I also aimed to work with a limited colour palette, which shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone who's familiar with my work. The colours I selected were picked to work with a red panda, though this dark purple colour ended up being used in many other animals in the series as well. I probably haven't mentioned this all that often in my videos, but for the past few years I've actually removed black from my colour palette. This was initially an experiment to see what would happen if I removed it. Instead I used dark blues, purple, greens and even dark greys. In the end, I found that using these dark colours added different depth to the image and they create more interesting shadows. And it makes sense because if you think about it, there are very few things in nature that are truly black. That doesn't mean that black doesn't have a place in imagery or art, because it does. I just find that using it very sparingly works best for me and my work. The fog effect I'm adding over the animal isn't just to make it seem dreamy or anything like that. I actually use it to make the animal fade into the white background. I chose to do this because I wanted to add a bit of a metaphor to the image, as the red panda and the other animals I explored in this series are endangered species. It felt right to show that visually somehow, so I added this fog. But this is also why I didn't add a background, because in many cases the animals are under threat due to loss of habitat. Thank you so much for watching. More of my process videos are up on my YouTube channel, and for more of my work, check out my social media accounts and my website.